The minimum requirements for Resident Evil 7 have been revealed, and they've been revealed through the Steam page. And let me not waste any more time and get into it right now. The minimum OS you're going to want is Windows 7. It also lists Windows 8, Windows 8.1, and Windows 10 64-bit. For the processor, it'll be an Intel Core i5 4460, the 2.70 gigahertz, or the AMD FX 6300. The RAM, 8 gigs of RAM. That's interesting. You see a lot of games now are requiring 8 gigs of RAM as opposed to the 6 gigs that you saw about like a year ago, year and a half ago. Now, for the graphics card, you're going to have the minimum of a GeForce GTX 760 or Radeon R7 260X. It's a little bit interesting when a lot of companies you see that post minimum specs. If the minimum specs have the GTX 760, a lot of companies have the AMD Radeon 260X as its equivalent, which is kind of interesting because I would put it more along the lines of GTX 750 Ti, which is a card that I have, and in a lot of cases the 750 Ti runs games better than the 260X. So it's kind of interesting that they often pair the GTX 760 with the RX 260X. Obviously, DirectX 11 is going to be the minimum version of DirectX. Now, it's interesting here that there's an additional note that says for 1080p with the CPU and GPU minimum requirements at 30 frames per second, in order to reach that target, players are going to have to either lower textures or set streaming textures to off in order to optimize performance. Now, it's obvious, Resident Evil 7 is set to come out next year. We're still a few months away from the game coming out. Of course, it could be delayed or whatever the case may be. So these specs may not be the same in a few months' time. They could be lowered, they could be raised. But for now, it looks like the minimum specs are pretty in line. I don't think that they're going to be too demanding at all. I'm pretty sure my GTX 750 Ti will actually make it hold up. If it's gonna have the 260X aligned with it, I honestly don't even have a 1080p TV or monitor, so probably we'll see if in that time I get one. But yeah, that's it for the minimum specs. On the recommended specs, it has the Intel Core i7 3770 or AMD. It actually just says here or AMD or better. It doesn't have an AMD equivalent to it, so that's a little interesting. Again, 8 gigs of RAM is going to serve you fine for the recommended specs. For the GPU, it's a GTX 960 or AMD R9 280X. DirectX 11 is still going to be the minimum if you want to hit those recommended settings. And it says here in the additional notes that for the recommended requirements, it'll get you 1080p at 60 frames per second. So it's pretty good that Capcom has left you additional notes on what these two setups will get you. All right, guys, that's it for this video. If you like the video, hit the like button. And if you like more of my content, be sure to subscribe. Until the next time, I'll catch you guys later. And on a side note here, too, put in the comment section below if your specs meet the minimum requirements or recommended requirements, or if you plan on upgrading. Take care, guys.